Hello. Today I want to share with you 7 tips for learning new vocabulary in any language, but specifically English. The first tip is don't learn words in a vacuum. Always try to learn them in a category. So for example, I often have students that will bring me like a TOEFL book of 1,000 TOEFL vocabulary words that they want to learn. Those books can be great. Sometimes they can be a little disorganized, where they've organized it alphabetically, for example. That's not useful for your brain. It's better to categorize those words. So you can think, okay, right, today I'm going to learn the TOEFL words related to biology. Look through your book, try to make a list of the words that you think are related to biology. Your brain can retain things better when it's learning in a category and not just random words that are not connected to each other. So the first tip's categories. The second one related to that is context. Again, it's important to learn how to use the words. If you're just learning an individual word, it won't stick. If you're seeing that word, for example, in a story or on TV, or even just in a sentence, you have a higher chance of memorizing it and actually understanding how to use it correctly. The best way to do that is actually simply just to like English or whatever language you want, things from that language. So you can learn vocabulary from music, from TV shows, from books. One of my favorite ways to learn new vocabulary in context is through graded readers. This one here is a Spanish graded reader. And as you can see, the book has already put all of the new vocabulary words that you're going to learn here. And here in the story, you're obviously getting the context. The third tip that I have is making sure you're writing the words down. It's been shown time and time again that writing helps you retain information. So when you're reading something or when you're watching a TV show, have a notebook next to you. If you hear a new word or you see a new word, jot it down real quick. This is especially important in class. I'm always surprised when students don't have notebooks and pens in class. It's so easy to write down the new words, and it takes like 2 seconds, and it goes much faster into your brain than if it just goes in one ear and out the other. Write it down. And then the third tip I have is spaced repetition. This is kind of like a popular buzzword, but it does work. So what spaced repetition means, if you've not heard of it before, is not just studying the same 10 words like over and over and over and over again. How you would do it is, let's say you have 10 new flashcards that you want to learn. You take a look at the first flashcard and you say, oh, that's easy. I already know that word. Put it to the side. The next one you think, oh, I'm not sure I'm going to remember that. Put it back in the deck. And in that way, you're putting the words that you think you know off to the side, and you're keeping the ones that you're not confident with. You can do this with physical flashcards, but there's also lots of good apps that focus on spaced repetition. For example, Anki is a really popular one that's free for Android phones, I believe. And also Brainscape, that's my personal favorite. But any type of app that focuses on spaced repetition gives you an opportunity to learn better. You are not just reviewing the same thing over and over. You're specifically reviewing the stuff that you need to learn that hasn't stuck in your mind yet. So that's my next tip. The one after that is using your words. So people like to call this passive vocabulary versus active vocabulary. Active vocabulary is the words, or are the words that you're using all of the time. You use these when you're writing, you use these when you're speaking. And I think any student of a new language knows that they tend to use the same ones over and over. And even though they might know other words and they can hear and recognize those words when other people say them, they don't use them themselves. How to get over this is take those passive words and use them in an active way. There's a lot of great ways to do this. You can just write sentences with the words, you can write paragraphs with the words, and you can use them in class. For me, I think the best ways to change those passive words to active words is to use them in real life situations or use them in places where you can interact with other people. For example, YouTube comments. You can write a YouTube comment using some of your new vocabulary on a video in that language. It's giving you an opportunity to interact with other people at the same time as trying to retain your new vocab. There's also a great website called Journaly where you can write anything you want and post it, and native speakers can then correct what you've written. Totally free as well. Google Docs also has a great spell check, so you can write, for example, a diary using the new vocab words, and Google Docs will just check the words for you. And then if you want to use them in class, what I always recommend to my students is write down 2 or 3 new words that you would like to use in class that day, and then just try to work them into the conversation with your teacher throughout the lesson, and it'll help move those words from passive to active. The final 2 tips are kind of basic tips that everyone should know, but it's worth reiterating. Consistency. Consistency is really important. If you take 2 weeks off from learning a language, you're going to forget so much, and it's going to be harder to regain that knowledge. Try to study every day. If you can't study every day, try to study every 2 or 3 days. The longer you wait between studying, the higher chance you have of forgetting things. And then finally, when it comes to learning new words, most people don't have photographic memories. They can't just memorize a new book all in one day. The number that I like to keep in mind is 10 words per day. 10 words per day is completely doable for most people. And if you think about that, that's 70 words a week. That's fabulous. So if you are really determined to memorize a certain number of words, try to think 10 words a day. 10 new words a day. You can review more, obviously, but 10 new words a day is what I would say is the max. So just to recap, I think the most important 7 tips for learning new vocabulary is categorizing your vocabulary. So you're not just learning random words, you're learning words that go together. Context, learning through reading or listening so that you can see how the words are used in a sentence. Spaced repetition, using those apps or just using flashcards, writing things down, taking notes during class or while watching a TV show, using the words either by writing paragraphs or talking to your teacher. Consistency, don't give up, and finally, 10 new words a day is what you should be aiming for. Hopefully that is helpful for someone, and